We are now recording. I want to introduce Val and Kathy. Val and Kathy are the two supreme administrators of MWSA in their respective roles as Founders Award and President's Award winners during this last year. And there's a reason why they're Founders Award and President's Award winners. They're really, really good writers. They're really good friends, and they have a really good program. In order to see Kathy and Val at their best, I recommend that you take your cursor and go to speaker view up at the top of your screen, upper right-hand side. Click on speaker view and click on the button that says exactly that, speaker view or gallery, either way. If you'll click on speaker view, that'll put up Kathy and Val for you. And I need to admit 2 more folks. 3 more folks. We're still getting people. With that, I think I have given you, yes, I've given you screen sharing privileges, Val. If you want to take over and share your screen and get started, I give you Val Ormond and Kathy Rodgers.
Oops, let's see what happened to her.
And marketing for those who hate to market.
Hold on, I'm not getting this. I had the,
Val, you're showing up on mine.
Yeah, yeah, I don't know what's going on here, sorry.
It always works better when we don't dress.
Yeah. Meeting controls, so wait a minute here. It says I'm screen sharing, but you're not seeing my slide, right?
Yes, we are.
Oh, you are, okay. All right, that's interesting.
Yep.
All right, well, this is interesting. All right. Well, I'm going to have to be looking to the right then during this because I can't figure out how to move it over.
It'll be okay.
Okay. All right. So let me go back. All right. Well, hello, everyone. As Jack said, I'm Valerie Ormond, and really glad to be here. And I just wanted to say, you know, this is trained education, whatever. So we're supposed to have an objective, and our objective is to hopefully have you walk away with at least one tip about marketing that you didn't know before you came. So we hope to make it kind of light and fun and not too serious. And thank you for coming on a Saturday. So here's our rules of engagement. Jack's already gone over that, you know, meet for presentation. We're going to be asking for input a few times. So we'd really like, you know, you to use that chat function. There will be a Q&A at the end where we'll let people talk, but we're trying to get through a lot of material in a little bit of time. So to save the chat, so because the reason we want to do it this way is so that people can contribute, and it won't just be Kathy and I's input, it will be other things that that other members are gonna enter in there. So when you go to the chat, if you go in the upper right hand corner, there's 3 little dots and you hit save. I'm going to go ahead and I'll be sending out this presentation to everyone. If you put your email address in that chat, don't worry, I'm not going to sell it. I'm not going to add you to a newsletter or anything like that. I don't have one. So, but I do have some pretty good things. Like one is a 15-tab marketing master spreadsheet that an author, Jenny Burke, made. It's very, very thorough. But useful. So there's some things in there you might find useful, and I have a couple other things that hopefully you use. So about us, Miss Kathy, would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hi, my name's Kathy Rodgers. I write under the name Kathleen M. Rodgers, so that's my brand. And I've got 4 novels out, all traditionally published, but years ago I wrote for Family Circle magazine and Military Times. The way I got my foot in the door at Family Circle, which is a big national, is I sold a cover story from Military Times. And the way I got my foot in the door at Military Times is I wrote a letter to the editor. So my whole career has been stepping stones.
Great, thank you. And those along the bottom, you'll see that's all Kathy's books, and there's a couple of them, a little marketing tips. I mean, you know, places where she's been in the news. And so I'll say this, I knew who Kathy was before I met her at the first MWSA conference because she is such a good marketer. I knew who her name was, I knew what she did. So this is me, and I wore the same shirt as is in that newspaper. That's about, this is about a year ago. Yeah, you can see the Christmas tree back there. But anyhow, as Jack mentioned, I was the MWSA President's Award winner. I've also won gold medals for my 2 books, Believing in Horses and Believing in Horses 2. Been a Writer of the Year finalist and Founders Award finalist. So, and I used to be on the board. Now I just do a lot of work for MWSA, but I'm no longer on the board. I'm the director of outreach. I also have a small business, and all these books, these are books that I've had stories in. So I'm working on my 3rd novel now. So I'm going to just explain for a minute why this marketing session will be a little bit different than maybe other marketing sessions, because as writers, we've probably all been to some type of marketing sessions, but neither Kathy or I are in the marketing business. You know, we're writers, just like you. We don't like to do it, but we understand the necessity of it. So, and we're not going to end with the sales pitch. We're not going to say at the end, you know, sign up for our program or anything like that. And then honesty, Kathy, you were going to talk about this.
We're not here to sell anything. We're not here to pitch our books. We're not snake oil salesmen. Valerie and I have nothing to hide. We're just fellow travelers on the journey.
That's great. Yeah. So, and what we're going to talk to you about is shared experiences. So we're not going to be reading out of a textbook that somebody says this is how to market. We're just going to talk about things that have worked personally for the 2 of us. So, got to have the who, what, when, where, why. The who is your marketing team. So some people may have big publishers, and so they help them a little bit in the beginning. Others may have agents. Others may have a marketing professional who helps them. My marketing team is me and my family. For those of you who know my husband, Jaime, he's about the most social person in the planet. And he helps me right every MWSA conference. I find him, he's out selling books in the bar, you know. So, you know, I'm fortunate to have that. My mother is also, she teaches, and she teaches seniors. She is a senior, but she also helps me quite a bit. And so I say, don't underestimate the power of your family or the people, your friends around you who can help you do these things. And Kathy, you were going to talk to this too?
My one family member who really pitches for me is my little sister, Jo. Every book, I've got 4 books out now. My marketing team has changed with each book, but my latest novel that came out in June, I would say that would be my publisher, Wyatt McKenzie, and my agent, Diane Nine. Those were my marketing teams. And then just a lot of good folks who kind of came on board. But again, it can change with every book.
Yeah, and the what is, you know, what are you going to do? Do you have a marketing plan? If I could get people to put in the chat whether they have a marketing plan or not, if you'd like to, yes or no. And I can send you one that I have. I'll include it in the resources. I'm not saying it's the best, but maybe it's a good example for those who may not have one to take a look at. And when, Kathy?
Oh my goodness. Let's say you've got a book coming out next June. Now is the time to start marketing. Don't wait until the day it comes out. And if you're working on your first book, let's say you just have a manuscript or you have an idea, it's okay to go out on social media and say, hey, I'm working on a manuscript. Declare yourself a writer. Wear being a writer 24 hours a day. Really, you're building your brand even before you have a book out.
Excellent. And the where, that just had to go in here because it's the 5 W's, but we're going to talk about that next on the next slide. And then the why. Why do you market? And Kathy, this is, you're going to talk to this too.
Yeah, I love to use this analogy. So why do you market your books or your magazine articles? Okay, so you have a pet. Your pet has gone missing. What do you sit in your house and, oh my gosh, my dog or cat's missing, or my bird? No. In the old days before the internet, you put posters out on telephone poles. People still do that. You get on the internet.
I would hit the mute thing.
You get on the internet and you say, hey, I've got a book coming out. Try to avoid always constantly buy me, buy my book, but just market yourself.
Okay.
So, Val, let me pop in for a second.
Yep.
Some folks still haven't muted microphones. And when we have it on speaker view, that will put you in front of the speakers. So let me ask again, please mute your microphone during this part of the talk. Go down to the lower left-hand corner where on your screen there is a little microphone and just click on it.
There you go. You got it.
Okay.
Kristen Hodge, got it.
Okay. Thanks all. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Nope. Okay. Yeah. So that, like Kathy said, you know, it's if you have a lost pet, you're going to do something about it, right? And how is somebody going to know that where to return that pet, or that it's even lost? So, so the why is really, you know, you spent all this time creating this work, and the best way to get that known is for you to let people know. So your target audience, who are they? Now, I'm surprised at the number of people I talk to that are writing a book in the early stages, and you ask them that question and they give you a blank stare. You know, this is really something that people should consider before they start writing. But then if they haven't, and they've written a book, which does happen, then they still need to figure out who do I sell this to? Where do I go? For mine, they're young adult horse books. It's the answers and about a military family, so the answer is pretty easy for me. So, you know, I go to places where horse people go, and that's both online and physically. So it's barns, it's horse expos, it's things like that. And how do you find them? We'd like to get some answers in the chat there. Like an example for me would be. There's a Facebook page called Aging Horsewomen International, and there's, I think, 50,000 members in there. It's older women love to buy books for their granddaughters, horse books. So, you know, that's one place. If we'd like to have, if anybody has other kind of interesting ideas about where they find their target audiences. And Kathy, I think you were going to say something about this too.
Yeah, so when my first novel came out in 2008, I thought, yeah, I'd spent 16 years writing it. I thought, oh, everyone's going to want to read my book. Well, no. So my main character was a fighter pilot. So that became my target audience, was the fighter pilot community, aviation buffs, anyone that had ever served in not just the Air Force, but any military branch. It's changed with every book. My latest novel is about strong women, so that became my target audience, are strong women, and there's a political side to it. So I kind of delved into that. Kind of scary, but hey, I've got a book out there and I want people to know about it.
It's great. So yeah, so you know, that's the thing. Identify who they are and then go where they are. And I'll say this about writers' conferences. They're great, but that's not where you're going to probably sell your books. And the same thing as book fairs and book festivals. There's a lot of people there. You know, if I'm the only one at a horse event, like a horse banquet that I went to once, you know, I sold 40 books in less than a half an hour because I'm the only one there selling books. If I go to a book festival, I'm there with, you know, 100 other authors. So just really think about that go, like, look at, just try to remember this slide when you're thinking about how do I sell more books. Now we're going to talk about sort of some non-traditional marketing ideas. So I'll go first because then Kathy's going to talk about the rest, so we don't have to go back and forth. Like I said, I write equestrian books. If you look on the slide here, the thing over on the right says the bookstore for horse lovers. This is really just pretty recently stood up. It's an online bookstore, and the people who run it just are great marketers, and it's already, I've seen such an uptick just in the short time that I've been involved with that. But they knew about me because as one of the people who set it up said, you're very discoverable. So be discoverable. But and then there's, like I said, I talked about that. I was talking about that before we started, about this Equestrian Author Spotlight podcast that I was on. And again, you just, you know, think about ways to get where you can be without just thinking about the standard book festivals. And Kathy, you were going to talk about this.
Yeah, so, you know, again, it changes. With me, I've been writing for decades, all kinds of things. But 2020, what happened for me, we'll talk about the pandemic later. But one of my big marketing tools this year has been the Pulpwood Queens. They've been around, they'll celebrate 21 years next year. The Pulpwood Queens is a big international book club, over about 800 chapters. And my latest novel, The Flying Cutter Bucks, is a 2021 official book club pick for April. So I've hit the ground running, and I've been trying to get selected since about 2014 for my other books. That was a stepping stone to get interviewed by Jonathan Hout, the executive director of the Pat Conroy Literary Center, because he's also in the Pulpwood Queens. So, you know, you use whatever you can. And the graphic here was from a book blogger at Wild Sage Book Blogs, and she loved my book. So she was kind enough to create this graphic. And you just, and then endorsements and blurbs. You know, you've got your advanced reader copy ready to go 6 months out, usually is standard. And you ask people you know in the business or other writers, if you're a new writer, go to the experts if you're you know, writing about a particular subject. And then where blurbs and endorsements can come in even better sometimes is when a writer comes to you and says, hey, I've got a book out. I would love for you to blurb my book. It doesn't mean you have to say yes every time, but that's an easy way to get your name on someone else's book jacket. It's free advertising.
Great, thanks. Yeah, this little blurb down there is from an MWSA author's book, so I just found that interesting. She's got a pretty good blurber. And then I'll just talk about some of these online, as you can see what it says, less considered, but these are free things, all right? So again, I'm surprised. I don't mean to insult anyone, but I'm surprised at the number of people who don't use Amazon Author Central and don't use all the features of it. So it's those two pictures on the right, that's Kathy and mine, you know, it's, again, it's sort of like a free website. I know every author should have a website, but if you can't, if you just either technically can't do it or can't afford it, whatever, at a very minimum, have your Amazon Author Central, and then you can use that link when you send things out to, you know, press releases, anything like that. So, so anyhow, here's a blog post that I did on it. Like I said, I'm going to send out these slides to everybody. I'll do it in a PDF so I don't crash your inboxes. But that blog, it just is for those of you who haven't done it. It's a pretty good little post on how to do it, and information from Nate the digital reader, so digital writer, and so a few of my tips. And then Kathy had told me this the other day. I kind of forgot about it, that don't forget to say that you're a writer in your Amazon author profile, your reviewer profile. So, you know, they're two different things. This is your author page, and then your reviewer is just, most of us, I'm sure, review books on Amazon. So it's just another way to put it out there. Say, hey, you know, I'm a writer. And Goodreads, Goodreads has 83 million readers on Goodreads. So that's a place to really, I don't focus on it enough. I should. I attended a really good webinar on that a few weeks ago, and I put a link to it on the MWSA public page. I put a post about it. So if you look on there, it won't be under me, because a lot of times when I'm posting it, I'm posting as an MWSA admin, but it's really good. At the end, she'll try to, it is a marketing pitch. At the end, she'll try to get you to buy into this other thing, but you know, but it is free and you don't have to. You'll just be on the email list. So I would look at that. And then this is another thing that I think of that maybe some other people haven't, is on your LinkedIn page, even though it's a professional page, at the very bottom here, and that's what that little thumbnail on the bottom is, where it says accomplishments, honors, and awards. You can put in, you know, there's what it says, you know, my MWSA awards and other awards, you know, writing awards, book awards, and things. So that's a nice place to put that. Again, it's free, and you got, as you can read the slide, the things that are on there, except for those who aren't seeing the slide, but awards, publications, organizations, and projects. And for example, on my projects, I just put that I'm working on my third book. So, and people actually read that stuff. Again, I'll talk about press releases because I think they're powerful, but they're really only powerful if they're targeted. So for instance, if I win an award, I send one to my horse people. I send one to my local paper. You know, local author does this. If I send to the horse, horse book first, Founders Award finalist in history. So target to each one of those audiences that you're sending it to. And I use this example here because Robin Hutton, who's written Sergeant Reckless and also the World War II, War Animals of World War II, Unsung Heroes, both wonderful, wonderful books. Anyhow, I read this for my horse group, the American Horse Publications, and they published this, and it was about us doing the event in Albuquerque, the writing event, the Veterans Writing Event. And this Standing Ovation picked this up, and there's 30,000 readers daily in that group. That's from a press release. So it was free. It took me, I don't know, say a half an hour to write the press release and a few minutes to send it to AHP, and then they post it out. So a lot of people think they're a waste of time, but I've found them to be very, very successful. Another time I won an award and I sent a press release to my local paper and the Capital Gazette. When I say local, I'm in Bowie, Maryland, but I'm right on the cusp of Annapolis, so we're very close there. So and a reporter called me and said, you know, I don't really care about the award, but I'm interested in you. He said, I think you've got an interesting story. So he ended up coming over here to my house in this office, took pictures, and interviewed me, and did a really nice story on me, a passion for writing and riding, and it was a good thing. And a lot of people, you think that people know that you're a writer, and then when you have an article like that come out, people go like, oh, I didn't know you write books. You're like, really? So and the unfortunate end to that story is that he was one of those 7 journalists that were killed in Annapolis in that horrible shooting a few years ago. But anyhow, that was again the result of a press release that I was able to get a lot of press and sell some books. So I'll send in the resources. I'll send you a sample press release. I think most people know how to do them, but I'll just send one that I did for the MWSA writing event. I say this, I know it seems kind of obvious, but always a thank you. I think that's one of the reasons why my local press have been so good to me, because I always thank them. And same thing with when this came out, I wrote to SmartPack and said, thank you so much. That really means a lot. So only takes a few minutes. This rule of 7, Kathy is going to get to talk again. This rule of 7 says that, as you can read the slide, that somebody has to hear something 7 times in order to get the message across. They say 3, but it's really more likely 7, and that's why it's called the rule of 7. It's a big thing in business. It's a big thing in sales. If you look at some of these expressions here, I just use those as an example, the got milk and where's the beef. And the point is, these people in these companies spent lots of money and lots of time developing these and reinforcing them. So, they're pretty good at what they do, and they know what they're doing. So remember that with marketing. Don't think that you're going to send one press release out and everybody's going to know who you are and what you do. So Kathy, this is you.
Okay, so, and pardon me if I can't keep up with the chat, I'm trying, but I don't talk at the same time as everyone that knows me. So let's just pretend that you've been notified that you are a finalist in 2020 Book Award program. What do you do with that finalist? Do you sit on it or do you do something else? So we're going to use the chat. And if you've been a finalist or you hope to be a finalist, use the chat and maybe type in some ideas of what you think you'll do, how you'll market yourself by being a finalist. This is long before the awards are announced.
Right.
And keep up with everybody here.
Yeah, and the goal is at least 7 mentions, right? So you're trying to get your name or your book or your work, that if it's a poem or it's a screenplay, at least 7 times. So we'll give you a few minutes.
And I would like to say that it doesn't all have to be blasted out at once. Again, sometimes it's, I like to put something out over on Facebook, and I might wait a day or two to put it on Instagram or Twitter, but I kind of, I don't always blast everything out on the whole thing all at the same time. I don't shotgun it out. Dwight, okay. Val, do you want me to say anything yet, or just give everybody a chance?
Give everybody a minute or two. I just give everybody a minute or two to put a few things. I can't see the chat because of my screen share thing, so I don't know what anybody's saying, which is probably good. So give, I'd say, another 30 seconds or so.
Don't be shy, y'all.
Yeah, because like I said, we're hoping that, well, I'll wait until I give after the 30 seconds. Okay, so what we hope to do is when we get through our presentation at the end, we're going to go back to that and we're going to maybe pick on a person or two to expand on whatever idea that they put in there that may be useful to the rest of the group. And again, like I said, if everybody saves that chat, I asked about having a marketing plan earlier. If you save the chat and you look at what some of these people have written in there, hopefully, I said, I can't see it. So hopefully there's some ideas in there that you can add to your own personal marketing plan from your fellow MWSA members. So Kathy, you're going to talk about this.
Okay, so marketing during a pandemic. So my book, The Flying Cutter Books, released June 2nd, and I signed the contract back in November, having no idea where we would be in 2020. And so I had just set up my book signing at Barnes & Noble. My agent was working on some things, and the shutdown came. So this is where you have to learn to be creative, be flexible, and a lot of people came to bat for me. MWSA was one of them. What I'd like to say here is it's not just about getting one book out and, buy my book. It's about building relationships, engaging with others. And because I've engaged with others over the years, built relationships, helped other authors out, I've even helped a few publishers and agents out and publicists. People came and helped me out. So, and getting on other authors' book blogs, getting on podcasts, but it was all about being flexible. And my agent called me in April and she said, do you want me to talk to your publisher and get them to push back the date? And I stood in my kitchen and I said, actually, I just want to survive the pandemic. No, let's go with the June release. And there's a lot of good things that happened to me this year with my book that might not have happened. And today we're all here on Zoom at MWSA because of the pandemic.
Yep. I was thinking there should have been a bullet on there that said, and be positive. Because you're definitely positive about a very, unfortunate situation for your book and the book release. So.
Let me just say this, that the first few days, it was making myself get out of bed, and I would get these emails from my agent, emails from the publisher. I'm like, well, if they're showing up, I'm the author, I guess I better show up too. And it forced me to start honing in and thinking about what is my plan. And,
Right.
and I wasn't alone. Everybody else I know that had books coming out, we were all in the same boat. So we just started lifting each other up. That's the other thing. It's about shining the spotlight on others, not just yourself.
Right. Thank you, Kathy.
It doesn't mean, well, if I help another author, they're going to get all my readers. No, there's enough people out there for all of us.
That's right. And this is, I just say, remember there are, it may be a long time between books. For me, it is at least. And so, there's a lot of opportunities beyond writing a book. So this is one of the past MWSA anthologies. We haven't done one for a few years, but the good news is we're going to have one in 2021. And our president just told us when we did the rehearsal for this that the board is going to decide on who the publisher is going to be, because we send out a bid. So that's great news. We're going to actually have it done by a professionally published, and the stories it's called Untold Stories, and it's a 3,000 words, and it can be a story, a poem, I guess a play. It could, we're pretty flexible, but it's a great way to get your word out there, and also to add those to your your Amazon Author Central page, or to announce, hey, I got the story published. And so if anybody has any ideas of what they might want to write for that, like I said, the request for submissions hasn't come out yet, because there's we need to land the publisher first, but that's the title. And so if anybody has any ideas about what they may think they are going to write, please include it in there. And it can't be an excerpt, it has to be original. And the the magazines, that's the other thing, you can always get your byline. That's what you want to do. You want people get used to seeing your name. So MWSA Dispatches is a great way. They're always calling for submissions. Blogs, I've had a blog for 10 years. I've posted every month for 10 years. Actually, I have 2 blogs, but you guest blog on other people's blogs. You can write for newsletters, trade, like I said, all this I don't need to read to you, but and that part about, you don't just put your name up there, Valerie, at the bottom of the article. You write Valerie Ormond is the author of blah blah blah, and so again, another way to get things out there. Kathy, did you want to say something about anthologies?
I would like to throw this out there. So one year I went to a conference, I believe it was Phoenix. I had nothing in the anthology that year, but here's what I did. While my husband drove us back to Texas, I flipped through the anthology, and everyone that I knew on Facebook where I could tag, I'd read their portion. I would take a photo just of the upper part of that first page, put their photo on Facebook, tag their name, and help them market themselves. I'm like, hey, look, I'm reading your story in the MWSA anthology. What I found out is a lot of those other writers, their followers, like, hey, congratulations, tell us about your writing. Mm-hmm. So that's just, and then I've got my work in many other anthologies outside of this organization. And it's, again, get your byline out there. You're building a brand. You're building not just one book, you're building you yourself as a writer.
Yep, that's great. Yeah, I was one of those people she did the shout out for too. And I remember I was thrilled. And again, same thing. People I think I know. And they see Kathy's post and they say, I didn't know. Okay. Kathy, this is yours too.
Oh, okay. So the graphic there is from Military Times. So that was a story that was published about my first novel, The Final Salute. That came out in Military Times. So Air Force, Army, Navy, and Marine, 2010. Okay. The book originally, that was the original cover. It came out in 2008. But here's what I did. Here's how I got into Military Times. And I ended up getting into USA Today, and the Associated Press picked up the story. So it was in city newspapers. I sent out the old-fashioned way, because I'm old school back in the old days. I sent out snail mail letters to a small newspaper in Alexandria, Louisiana, where my story is set in a fictional setting. And I didn't hear from anybody. I waited 2 weeks. I sent out to 2 more different editors that I found their names on the online, sent those snail mails. A reporter called me a few days later, interviewed me, big, beautiful article in their Sunday lifestyle section. 2 days later, I'd hit USA Today, Military Times, and the Associated Press, and it was various versions of the story. But again, I didn't give up. I wasn't taking no for an answer from that small newspaper in Louisiana. And it turns out they were owned by Gannett, which also owned USA Today, and I believe Military Times, which I did not know when I mailed my snail mail. So you do whatever works.
Yep. And as as the slide says, keep your books alive. Just they say that people say there's the shelf life is 6 months for a book. Well, I don't believe that one bit, because I mean there's it depends on you keeping it alive. And
could I say this, for instance?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the shelf life, books really don't have shelf lives. This book came out in 2008. Last October, before the pandemic, I was invited back to Louisiana to a squadron reunion to talk about this book that's been out forever. And it wasn't a fighter pilot squadron, it was a supply squadron. And all those guys, they loved the book. One guy read it 12 times. It's because my book reminded them of their young days when they were airmen. So if you want to keep your book alive, you gotta get the word out there. What not to do though, don't do what I've seen on Instagram. And there's a new writer out there, and every one of her photos is her book cover. Maybe an occasional wild animal or a pet, but it just, every day it's buy me. So you gotta balance how to market.
Yeah. And as it also says, remember, people they want to know about you. Sort of like that reporter who wanted to do that story. They don't want to just know about your book or your awards. They want to know, who are you? Who is this person behind the words? So now that was what we had for you, and we came in exactly on time. So which means we left something out, I'm sure, but anyhow, so now we're going to open it for questions. I will stop my screen. Oh, I'm sorry, I got one more. That's why we didn't come. No, when I send this out, here's our contact information, so you all will have that, and the MWSA contact information, so if anybody's here who's not MWSA. So okay, so with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I'm going to turn it over to Jack.
Okay, let's go out of screen share. And everybody who wants to, this is a really, really good time to ask questions. If I were you, I would ask Val or Kathy. Don't ask me. I kept seeing through the chat line that we had a lot of really, really good questions.
Yeah, like they
Go
have
back to your questions in your chat line and bring them up now.
regular, pool that just so happen to be covered. So for anyone planning any type of training or, that.
I'm sorry, Kathy, I can't hear you. I mean, I can hear you, but it's very hard to hear.
That you have them stand in there and still think like you.
We can't hear you.
Kathy, would you like to type your question into the chat line and I'll read it for you?
Yeah, because it's coming in like you're underwater or something.
And while we're waiting on Kathy, that is that Kathy White? Is that who I had? Who else?
Kathy and
who wants to ask a question? We've got these. This is your chance.
I have a question.
There we go. Hi, Nancy.
Just a very basic beginning question. When you first are pitching your book to whoever online, say to different organizations, what do you include? Do you try and include the cover of your book, a snippet of your book, in addition to just some basic information? What do you do?
Kathy, you want to take that one?
Sure.
Okay.
Yes, if you already have your cover, use your book cover. Maybe give them your website. Just introduce yourself, and it's always a little bit nerve-wracking. But what I found through the decades, because I'm old, is just be yourself. Say, "Hey, I've got a book coming out. I think maybe some of your members in your group. Let's say you want to get in and talk to the women's club of your town where you live. Just say, hey, do you need a keynote speaker? I've got a book coming out." You have to, sorry, my dogs, I hear them. You have to, just be very open about where you can market the book. But yeah, Nancy, just put something out there with your book cover, maybe your website, just a little bit about who you are.
And I'll say this, sometimes it depends. For instance, I'll I'll put little blurbs in the patch, right? I don't know if anybody else has the local patch, and sometimes they'll ask, you can submit pictures in there, or you can submit, if it's an event, let's say you're doing a book signing, they'll tell you what their submission requirements are. But and if you're doing a press release, it depends on where it's going. You can always put in there images available upon request. And so that way the reporter will know that they can follow up with you. I found what they normally want is a headshot, book cover, and when I'm doing a press release, it's always good to get some quotes from somebody. You know, hopefully maybe somebody who has a name that or some kind of credibility. For instance, if you get an award from MWSA, would be, you know, that you're an award winner, or if somebody who does a book review and you put a bit of a, you know, they're like proof points. They're showing, it's not just Nancy who thinks my stuff is good, other people do as well. So, or if you know, other things is, you know, I know you've been published in dispatches and that kind of thing. So like, I think for you, a great place to market would be Annapolis, the Capital Gazette. I think they'd be very interested in your story, because you know, they always have to have stories on the Naval Academy, and the fact that you used to teach there, and also that you have these poems about the Academy, I think would be brilliant. So.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
I like what Nancy said, offer that you give, you know, speaking services for free at first. And then you said that after a while, maybe you'll start getting paid, and develop a pitch sheet.
Yeah, I agree. And I actually have them for my books. David Trino asked me, what's the patch? Around here, I don't know. I think it's pretty much everywhere. It's a local online paper. So it's like a digital, like for instance, there was one for Annapolis, one for Bowie, one for Edgewater, one for all the little towns around here. And they're basically looking for stories. I mean, they want, they want content. So if you're a writer, especially, they kind of like it, because they know that they're not going to have to edit it or anything. So,
Now, Kathy, I've got two questions for you.
Mm-hmm.
Steve Underwood, what are your thoughts on making yourself available to VFW, American Legion, and so forth?
I'll take that one. I think it's good, and actually that's part of what our MWSA Ambassadors Program is about. Is to I would not say the way to do it is to go and ask if you can sit there and hawk your book. This is the way I would do it, and is that you go and you offer to do a session teaching people how to write, or telling them how to write. And when you're there, you have copies of your book, and you say, you know, for instance, this is what I did when I was writing my book about, you know, people just like you. And yeah, I think that that's the better way, and that's the way to build those relationships. And so,
Okay.
yeah, we encourage it. I mean, we definitely encourage it. It's part of our, you know, it's part of our ambassadors program, which of course has taken a little bit of a, you know, shift because of COVID, but and you can also, I mean, you could also go there. You can put up flyers if you're a member. They probably put flyers in the wall. You can put little, like somebody said, those speaker sheets. You can, if you have bookmarks, you can do that. And so.
Okay, here's the next one. Dylan, what are the best ways to use Facebook to market?
And that's you, Kathy, all the way.
So, you know, there's the timeline, and then there's the public page. Here's what I've learned over the years. I get better engagement on my timeline. I'll post first on my timeline, and then I'll share it to my public page. Sometimes I think I'll just drop the public page, because I'm not always sponsoring. Facebook wants you to pay them money to sponsor. The best way that I joined Facebook in 2009. I'm not just out there, buy me, sell my books. I'm a writer. You know, my dogs have been a big hit over the years. When I was still a stage mom, oh my gosh, you know, I've retired from being a stage mom, but my sons, now that I'm a grandma, you know, I occasionally post grandkid pictures. If you can engage strangers, they do find out you're a writer. People are intrigued by writers, because most people, let's be honest, can't string two words together like a writer can. So I try not to oversaturate Facebook's. You know how you know when you've oversaturated? when your writing soul feels sucked dry and you feel like, oh my God, I cannot keep selling myself. I need to take a few days break. And
Yeah.
it's really better. Oh, here's the other key. When you shine the light on others, lift other people up, help market other writers' books. It doesn't mean you have to go and become a publicist. When I die, I'm going to come back and become a publicist, and y'all can all pay me big money, and I can finally make some money at this writing gig. But when we lift others up, it takes the glare of the spotlight off of ourselves when we shine it on other writers.
Yeah, and I was just going to say one more thing about Facebook, that I have a blog. Like I said, I have a blog, and I blog every month, and I post my blogs to my Facebook public page. I don't post a lot. I mean, I just don't post a lot. It's because I'm busy, really. but I do try to at least post that there. And you know, you've written something, again, you kind of want people to be interested, and not everybody who's on my Facebook public page follows my blog. And then seeing Jim Tritton reminded me of this, is that and the thing about a blog, why a blog is so good, that when I post a blog post, it goes, I mean, okay, I put it on my Facebook page, but it also automatically goes to my Goodreads feed. And I said Jim because he liked one of my posts once. It goes to my Goodreads feed, and it automatically goes to my Amazon author page too. So again, you're reaching a lot of different audiences, and honestly, it's just a good way to keep practicing writing. You know, it forces me. I don't always want to, but I say, okay, it's been 10 years. And every time I think about giving up my blog, because I'm just like, I got too much else to do, something happens, you know, like one time Simon and Schuster sent me a book. They said, would you mind reviewing this? It was a horse book. And because I said, oh, well, of course, you know. I said, well, how'd you find out about me? They said, oh, because your blog. I was like, okay, I guess I'll keep blogging then. So don't underestimate the power of a blog.
So
Holly has made, I'm sorry, go ahead, Kathy.
Okay, so it's hard for me to follow all the chat, but I'm trying, y'all. So one person asked, is it good to market at VFW? So I'm just a civilian, a military family member, but here was my experience through the Writers Garrett a few years ago and MWSA. I participated with another member, and we went to a VFW in Dallas. Hardly anyone showed up. So it's also part of this game is your expectations. Prepare yourself that you'll have 0 participants, and then be so surprised when, like today, Valerie, we have a lot of people on board. Someone else also asked a question about, let's see, while you're writing, how much time are you dedicating to all these? Okay, let's say you're working on your first book. Maybe go on whatever platform you're comfortable with. Some people love Instagram. Some people love Twitter. I hate Twitter, but I only have it because I'm a writer and my agent's on there. Wherever you're comfortable, go on occasionally and post something else. You know, hey, I found this great recipe, or just an encouraging tip. This year, there have been so many awesome inspirational quotes out there on Facebook, Instagram, because everybody's lonely, everybody's hurting this year. So, and then you can kind of work in, I'm working on my first book, or I've been published in such and such. Here's the key to being a writer, no matter how many books or articles you have out. When I say wear it earlier, WEAR, you wear it like a cloak. You're a writer 24/7, even when you're not writing. When you're dreaming, use your dreams. When you meet people, just sometimes it's organic. Let it be organic. That's who you are now. Like when you're a mom or a dad, you're 24/7, even when they're grown, even when you say you're not. So just wear it.
Yeah. Own it, right? Somebody had asked a question about ebook versus hard copy marketing, the differences and similarities. And I would say the biggest difference, of course, is if you go to a physical book signing. You know, it's a little harder to bring a ebook, but what I do a lot of times, well, every time that I go to book signing event is I always have bookmarks made, you know, that has the little blurbs about the book and the cover and that kind of thing. And because some people just aren't ready to buy at the moment, or if you're competing with a lot of other people, and I just say, here, take a bookmark. And especially it's good for little kids because, you know, a lot of times the moms don't want to pay for it. So you give them a bookmark and they'll ask you to sign it. So, but just again, have people walk away with something so that they remember you. And I was looking back for some of these examples for just to see what people may have.
Valerie, here's one. David, if you blog about something unrelated to your book, how do you turn that into promotion of the book? Oh my goodness, at the end of your blog, you sign, hey, you know, David, or have a great day, or whatever you, and then right under your name, you put, you know, like for me, I'll put you know, Grace and Peace, or Nevertheless She Persisted, Kathleen, and then author of The Flying Cutter Bucks. Or I change it out, you know, 2020 MWSA Founders Award, or years ago, just, you know, former magazine writer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I would say, like for me, my blog, the book covers are on there and everything, so it's pretty obvious. I mean, it's not always about my books. If it was, nobody'd ever read it. You know, it's every now and then I do, because like this last month I had won this big award, and it was about the book and the award, right? Because that's what the post was about. But I don't write don't say much about the book, but you know, I'd say more times than not, it's really not about the book, but it's about getting people there, and then they discover that you are a writer. I see Dwight said this about this Top Gun book. Dwight, are you still with us? You want to talk about that? That's a really interesting point about how he found some.
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Hi. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So the Top Gun book, that's this thing. When I pitched to my publisher, it was shortly after the announcement of the Tom Cruise Top Gun movie sequel. And, you know, the idea was that we would try and piggyback some free publicity with our Top Gun book, which would include mention of the movie, but basically be focused on not just the Top Gun Navy program, but fighter pilots from World War I up to present day. I wanted to be as inclusive as possible to try and target as many different interest groups, because as you know, fighter pilots, well, they're really sexy. You know, fighter planes are really sexy. And as I was getting close to writing the manuscript, the movie studio moved back the release date of the movie 1 year. So that blew out of the water our original plan of piggybacking on movie publicity. And then of course, you know, COVID-19 hit and the movie got pushed back even further. So we immediately had to start working on a plan B as our main thrust. And the good news was that because I had been so inclusive in the material, and I've been on Facebook, you know, long enough to be familiar with how it works, I started trolling through the different Facebook sites, you know, that were dedicated to World War I airplanes, World War II airplanes, Vietnam airplanes, dedicated to specific types of airplanes, whether they were Mustangs or the Sabres or Tomcat, or, you know, in other words, anything and everything that was even remotely connected to fighter pilots, naval aviation, Air Force aviation. You know, I was an absolute maniac. And the result, you know, so once I had that master list, then I composed dedicated queries to the different administrators, stating who I was, a little bit about the book. This was before we actually had, with the publisher, a formal press kit. And so it was just saying, you know, this book's going to be coming out. Are you interested? May I post a notice when we have the material? And you know, obviously you have to be very polite, completely upfront, and just very straightforward. And every single one of them, I'm happy to say, got back to me and said, yeah, please. And I got, and then when we were ready with the publicity rollout, I got the material from the publisher's marketing person, and then contacted all of these people and said, here's the stuff. And yeah, they started listing, the notices, and I got a nice, enthusiastic response.
Great. Thank you. That's, I just thought that was kind of an interesting way. I was just looking to see if there's, I really hope everyone will save the chat, because I'm looking through it right now. And of course I can't, I don't want to, read what other people may have read in there. But there's some really great posts. Carolyn had a good one. A lot of people did. Somebody asked, can you please talk about finding a publisher if I don't have an agent? And I'll just talk about that one for a second, because I did that. And it was, again, I'll go back to the, what do you write? So after I'd written my book, I went and I looked, I said, well, who published it? And somebody else had given me this advice. Who does horse books? What publishers do horse books? And believe it or not, there are publishers who do horse books. And so Trafalgar Square Publishing is one of them. And they're a really big one. But somehow I got through that, doing this research, I found this other publisher, JB Max, and he'd been he was with Trafalgar Square Publishing. Anyhow, I ended up just sending him an email and saying, hey, I just wrote this book and I'm looking for advice. Do you have any ideas about where I may go? And he said, well, you can send it to me and I'll take a look at it. We're not taking anybody right now, but we'll take a look. And, I lucked out, and they did take me. But the point there is, if you write a children's book, go to see who writes children's books. There's if you write military books, see who writes military books, right? I mean, there's like the Naval Institute Press is one. They don't do they do very, very little fiction, and you need to have an agent these days. But Elva Reese Publishing, right? Kathy has worked with them. So you can go to Writer's Digest and look and see what kind of who the publishers are out there, and try to find one. So, and then the other part of that, and then I'll let Kathy talk about that too, but also somebody else had asked about an agent, and Kathy knows a lot about that.
Okay, and I was trying to type in chat. So again, I don't talk and chew gum at the same time. So are we asking, somebody asked about how to find an agent?
Right, and publishers.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so I'm on my third agent. I signed with Diane 3 years ago, but that was because one of her clients referred me. I had left my former agency, and that's a whole nother story, which I would share in private sometime. But it took me years to get an agent. There's other ways to get published traditionally without a literary agent, and the publishing world, it shifts. It's an organism, it changes constantly. Some things never change, others do. But you can query and pitch yourself to smaller traditional presses. And it's a lot of work, but you have to, if you write that manuscript, it's just like raising a child or a pet. Do you love that child? Do you love that pet? What are you going to do when you send your kid off to kindergarten? And do you just walk away from the school door and never see them again? Let's say you get called in for a teacher's meeting. You're the parent. You advocate. It's the same with the book or with any of your writing. You advocate for yourself. And that's pitching and querying is exhausting. It's more exhausting to me than marketing, but it's part of it. It's a crapshoot. It's a risk, but you take a risk just getting your words down. I don't have any really answers. It's just a lot of trial and error and a lot of disappointment and a lot of depression. You can ask my husband, Tom. He deserves the medal for being the spouse of a writer. Good Lord. So do my dogs and my kids that are grown now. But you just have to do a lot of research, ask around, ask your writer friends, and you learn by trial and error. Sometimes you are so hungry to get an agent. You meet a writer who has an agent. I'm like, oh my gosh, will you get me your agent? I'm needing an agent. Well, there's certain ways you kind of have to learn how to tap dance a little bit, and some protocol. But a lot of it is engaging with others, networking. The books you read, turn to the acknowledgments. If a book's been agented, look who that agent is. See what kind of books they take on. I don't know if that really answered the question.
I think so. Nancy asked, has anyone used a hybrid publisher?
I have not, but there's one that comes to mind. She Writes Press. I believe that's hybrid. Or I think it may have different tiers, hybrid, or sometimes they pay. But some of those, it's women authors. They're doing quite well. Now they put some money down, but they're getting publishers' weekly reviews, library journal, book buzz, their book list. They're getting their work known out there. And I do have friends who've used hybrid. And I think nowadays, there's many routes to take for how you get your work published. It just has to feel what's right here. What feels good for you? How do you get your work out there? And if you self-publish, then you've got to advocate for your book. You have to advocate for yourself. If you're shy, pretend you're not shy. That's half the battle. I'm really a shy person, believe it or not. But I just put on and I put on my magic cowgirl boots, and that helped today. Just advocate for yourself and your work.
Yeah, I'd say the same thing. And I am, my next book that's coming out, I'm going to try independently publishing for the first time. But I'll say this. I mean, I'm so happy for my publisher that he took a chance on me and this and that. But I've found that I'm doing just as much work, so I might as well just do it all myself. And, I'll have an editor and everything like that, but I'm going to try it because, why not? I haven't done it yet. So I'd like to see, except for a little teacher's guide that I did. Somebody, okay, he asked that to me privately. So I'll go back to that, to him.
Well, Val, can I say this?
Yeah.
There are writers out there who've had big New York houses and their books go out of print. They've self-published, they get the rights back, they've put their books out, but they've also had a platform, established a name. I think there's just many ways to get your work out nowadays. It's not like back in the old days when I first started writing decades ago. There was either traditional or vanity. Hey, for $20,000, $30,000, we'll print you 500 books and, make sure you've got a trunk in your car and, you peddle your books. But there's so many different routes today. And a lot of self-published books today are really quality. That's also the key. This isn't an editing workshop. Please, for the love of Hannah, get your book edited and not by someone who knows how to edit.
Yeah, and I'll echo that too. I'm really glad you brought that up, even though that's not the topic of this. But we're both reviewers and have been long time reviewers, and that is the number one problem of books that are entered for MWSA contests, is the awards program, is that, and it kills you as a reviewer because you're reading this really good book and you just say, I want this to be an award winner, but the number of typos is, there's this. If you're not a reviewer, I strongly recommend you become a reviewer because you will learn so much, and you'll see the things that they score against. And so even though that, seriously, I read once, I think it was one of the best books I've ever read in my life, but I couldn't pass on the technical. And again, a happy ending to that story is that author took it took the feedback very seriously and went and did get a really good editor and republished the book and redid the cover. And, you know, again, he was very open to suggestions. So a number of people have asked questions in here about, you know, how should I market this and this particular one and et cetera. I would say, one of the best things you can do, and again, I said we wouldn't sell anything, but I'm answering your questions. One of the best things you can do is you're already members of MWSA. So, you know, there's a beta reviewer program. So you can, if it's pre-publication and you want to get another set of eyes, do that. Somebody, you know, has something like your book, whatever. If you have not submitted for an award, submit for your awards, because like we said, you know, once you get an award, you know, you've got that rule of 7, and you can, you know, send out press releases, and you can do this and you can do that, and you can put the sticker on your cover. And you'd be amazed when you're sitting in a book selling how many people that little flashy little gold thing or silver or bronze, whatever it is, people say, oh, well, this must be good. So, you know, it really can go a long way. And worst case scenario is your book doesn't get an award, but you get great feedback. And then you can apply that feedback to those books. So.
Great question from, I lost it, from Rut. I think it's from one of our roots. How can you become a reviewer? You
can go to the MWSA website, mwsadispatches.com, and there's a whole section in there, it's, you know, reviews and awards, and there's a whole training program that tells you how to do it. And if by any, and I think Barb is on here too, Barb Everson, and she is one of the reviewing directors. So they have put together a phenomenal program to help people review books. And like I said, I think it makes everybody a better writer. And the answer to Annette's question is, she said, can you submit a manuscript for an award, or must it be published? The answer is it must be published. So, and like I said, I really recommend everybody save this chat, because there's some great tips in here. And that was the last thing I was going to say about the last one, about people asking, okay, I've written a children's picture book. What do I do? There's people in this group, for instance, Kathy Taylor has written and published several. So maybe reach out to her. James, the question that he had asked, it was, I think he asked me because his book is similar to my books. And so what I'm trying to say is, look at the people in this group, and you know, see if somebody has had like experiences or something, and you could kind of tell from some of the chat items. Then go ahead, or maybe what we should do here real quickly is, if people say what your specialty is, if you want to just type that in there, and then you've got their email addresses, and you can get in touch if they've left them, and then you can reach out to each other and say, you know, Nancy is writes poetry, and maybe there's somebody else who's a poetry. Jim Greenwald's a poetry person. Say, hey, you know, I have any tips for me? Because again, the target audience and your genre, I think, is probably going to be most helpful.
And I had for Jim. Jim has poetry books, and around Valentine's Day, he's been known to go hang out at bars. And when the fellas are there and they've realized, oh my gosh, we've messed up because all the floors are closed, Jim's got these poetry books. What speaks to a woman's heart but poetry? So that's, and then I do believe Jim has been kicked out of a racetrack because he was peddling books. Hey, it's trial and error.
This is a good time to do one more thing. Everyone who has your chat line open, the chat box on the right, there are 2 ways to save it. One way is down at the directional bar where it says to whom you're sending your chat. You'll see 3 dots. If you'll just click on that box of 3 dots, it'll tell you how to save. Or if you want to paste it into a Word document, just put your cursor over it, block the entire copy, block the entire chat, copy it, and then paste it into a Word document. But it's a really good resource. And again, I request everyone put an email address in there. Back to you.
I'm just typing, I'm sorry, I was just typing in what my specialty is, so that if anybody wants to reach out and, you know, if they're for
Okay,
what I just said. So if anybody else wants to do the same thing.
let's do that again. This is a good place to type your email address and type what you specialize in so that all of us can share in that.
Oh, good. We have a copy editor in the group too.
Oh, who's the copy editor?
Let's see here. Where did she go? Sue Rushford.
Here I am.
Hi, Sue.
Sue.
Great. Thanks for putting that in there. That's helpful for everyone.
Copy editors are our friends.
And I would like for you guys to be my friends.
Great. We have another member, Joyce Gilmore, who's a copy editor a number of us have used, and she's very good too. So, but she can't handle all of us. Ooh, legal fiction. There are a number of poets on here. There's Barb. Yep. So Barb Everson on there, you can probably see her, the person who was asking the question about wanting to be a reviewer. You could probably reach out to her too. So I think she'd be happy to help you if you can't figure it out. But I think it's pretty easy to figure out on the MWSA page.
This has been fun, everyone.
Yeah. Oh, Holly, I'm so excited about your book. I just saw it on there. That's again, and I look at that and I say, okay, Marine Corps. I would be looking to get that book in the National Museum of the Marine Corps in Quantico. They have a very nice bookstore, gift store, not bookstore. But one of our members, Elva Reese, who I mentioned before, she wrote a children's book had to do with the Marines years ago, and it ended up being on the Commandant's read list for that year. So that was a big deal for her. So.
I would
Nancy
like
has
to
asked,
plug Elva Risa. Terry Barnes is leaving as the executive editor, and someone else is coming in, but they publish military family books. And I've never published with them, but they came to bat for me and publicized me when my book came out during the pandemic. So Elva Risa, Military Family Books.
Mm-hmm.
Nancy Panko has asked, is there a conflict of interest if we are a reviewer and submit a book for the contest? I
can answer that. The answer is no, but you can't review books in the same genre. Okay, so if you write, let's say you write a historical fiction, if you're submitting a book for an award in historical fiction, you just can't review other books and that. So that makes sense, right? So everything else is up for grabs. And the way that it's done is the books, the list of books go out to all the reviewers, and you select the books that you want to review. Sometimes you get a little arm twisting to review something that you may not have picked when it's been sitting there a while, but mostly, yes, you just, and again, it's a self-policing thing, right? Where you know if you're going to submit a book or have submitted a book. So,
Kathy, Kathy Alexander has asked, can you please share the information again about Elva Risa?
Okay, so Elva Risa, ELVA, and then capital RESA, Elva Risa Publishing. They publish military family type books. I don't know who the new incoming editor is in, but Terry Barnes is a woman, TerriBarnes. She will be there through, I believe, the middle of December, and a new editor's coming in, but it would not hurt to pitch to them and their traditional press. And then they're also linked up with Military Family Books online bookstore. And again, I have no affiliation with them except that I've reviewed their books. They came to me and put my book on their online bookstore. And then they had me make a video and they helped promote my book. So again, it's all about engaging others and forming relationships and lifting others up besides ourselves.
Okay. All right. Jack, that's about, I mean, I know that there's a lot of information in here. And like I said, I don't want to read to people, but since we've all learned how to save the chat, Dylan Wee says, unable to copy and paste this. Then, do you see the three little dots on the right-hand side at the bottom? Like if you go to type a message, and then you hit those three little dots and it says save chat.
I don't have the three little dots either. It might be because I'm on a notebook, a Chrome notebook.
Huh.
So what you should do is take your cursor and right click, copy the entire chat, and then paste it into your Word document, into your word processing.
I tried that. Can't do it on the notebook either.
Well, you're just in trouble.
I am.
Okay.
Try left click.
Sue, anybody who can't do it, just let me know. And I did this one of the other ones too. Somebody couldn't do it because of whatever platform they were on, and and so I'll go ahead and I'll send it to you.
Okay, I have one last question. This comes from me. Your slides were great. If anyone wants a copy of the slides, would you send them to them?
Yeah, no, yeah, I'd said that early on. Sorry. Yeah, I'll go ahead and
I was
send it.
busy administering.
Yeah, you were letting people in and all that. You weren't listening. So the other thing I'd say about this, those who were able to save the chat, please, what I would recommend you save it. You know, when it says save chat, make sure you know where it goes because it's a TXT file and it could get lost. So if you don't open it up right away, you may never find it again.
That's why I copy mine into a Word document.
Yeah, so there you go, save. Okay.
A couple
I
of
have a
housekeeping.
question.
Yes.
Jack, Val, will our session be posted on MJBSA website?
I'm not sure what you're asking, but let me tell you what I can answer.
Okay.
I have not only recorded this session, but I now believe I know where to find it. Robert Goswitz asked me, where is my video? And I said, holy cow, I can't find it. I found it and I sent it to Robert Goswitz. And what I intend to do with this video is to save it, and I will send it by design to Bob Dorr, who is the president of this group, but I will send it by invitation or request to anyone who sends me an email and $1,000. Oh, well, just send me an email. No, I will. It is being recorded. I believe I can find it once it's buffered, and I will send it to you. My second housekeeping is for January. Robin Hutton is supposed to be our presenter in January, and oh my goodness. She came out to Albuquerque with us last year and set the house on fire. Her original talk has been and continues to be the elements of storytelling. Now, there is a modest chance, ooh, someone took over screen share.
Hi, Dylan.
Dylan, unscreen share. Okay. I'm gonna.
RBG, yes.
Dylan. Sorry
There we
about
go. All right.
I had to end Dylan's screen share. Robin Hutton gave us the talk of the lifetime on the elements of storytelling and agreed to do that for us on January the 16th, semicolon. A few weeks ago, someone asked Bob Dorr whether we would do a session on writing for screenplays. And Robin has been approached on that. She has experience in that, and the answer is maybe. So I cannot tell you whether we're going to get a dynamite presentation on the elements of a story or on writing screenplays. But knowing Robin, whatever I can talk her into doing, you're going to really like it. So Holly has asked to be sent a copy of the chat. She can't locate it. Anyone else have any more questions or comments? My final comment is this. Whenever I send these notices out, I try to send them with a header that tells what the time is at each time zone. If it's noon in Central Time, it's 1 on the East and 11 in the mountains. It's 9 in California, or 10 in California. And if you live in Arizona, no one knows. But when the Zoom notice comes out, Zoom itself says, whatever time I post it for. You have to convert it yourself to get the proper time zone for where you live. Zoom might not do that for you. If you open it through your calendar, it will do that. But if you open it off the link, it will not. So please keep an eye on what time the Zoom actually begins. So this is the last chance to say hi to everyone, to ask any last questions, to say anything you want to say. I think that Military Writers is a family, and this is our family reunion until next September. By the way, we think that next September, vaccination willing and the creek don't rise, we'll all get together in person in New Orleans. No, that's not correct. We're going to go back to Connecticut. We're going to go to Connecticut, New Orleans 2 years from now. So we'll see each other and hug each other in person then, but I'll see you all on video a month from now. Have a nice holiday, and thanks for being with us.
Great. Thanks,
Thank
Jackie.
you, folks.
Thanks
You did a
all.
great job.
Everybody, yeah,
Thanks,
great.
Jack.
Thank
Great.
you.
Nice to see everyone.
It's very nice to see everyone. Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
10,
Bye.
9, 2, 1, bye.